I think the Israelis are heavily involved in Iran at the moment. I'll tell you why, for a couple of reasons, more than a couple. Number one, in the so-called 12-day war that we saw last year, the Israelis were absolutely masterful in the way they went after the Iranian leadership. What they did was they focused on recruiting Afghan refugees. Iran was home to more than 2 million Afghan refugees. And as essentially illegal aliens, they could not avail themselves of medical care, the welfare system. They're starving, right? They only eat if they can beg for enough to buy food. And so the Israelis went to these people very discreetly and said, hey, we'll give you $200 a month if you tell us where the generals live. In which apartments do the generals live? Where do the nuclear scientists live? The Israelis killed the top 12 generals across the entire Iranian military and killed almost every Iranian nuclear scientist. Because what they were able to do was to recruit these Afghans to not just tell them where they were living, where the generals and the scientists were living, but what their cell phone numbers were. And so the Israelis were able to geolocate the cell phones, and then that's where you fire the missile. They killed all of them. And then after the Iranians finally realized it's the cell phones, they ordered that no senior military officials and no scientists could carry cell phones. But it never dawned on them to tell the bodyguards not to carry cell phones. And so the Israelis started rocketing the bodyguards and just killed everybody else.
Have you ever killed anybody?
No, thank God. My children asked me that. And I told them very proudly that I have never taken any action that resulted in the death of another human being. There's one kind of half exception. And I think about this all the time. In 1993, I guess it was, I was sitting in the morning meeting. I told you earlier that every unit meets every day at 9 o'clock, and you just talk about what happened in the country that you cover overnight. I was in the morning meeting, and the secretary came in, and she said, John, General Powell is on the phone for you. Call him Powell. And I said, General Powell? How does he know who I am? And she said, I don't know, but he asked for you by name. My boss is like, well, go answer the phone. So I went to my desk, and I said, good morning, General Powell. This is John Kiriakou. And he says, John, if the Iraqis were going to kill the president, who would actually be in charge of that operation? And I said, well, if you're talking about the attempt to kill President Bush, George H.W. Bush, he had been visiting Kuwait. I said, Kuwait operations are run from the Iraqi intelligence service's Basra station, but Basra station is headed by Sabr Abdulaziz Adori, the director of the Iraqi intelligence service. He says, where does he sit? I said, Baghdad. Where exactly in Baghdad? I said, if you hold on a second, I'll look up the address. So I looked it up. I gave him the address. He says, thank you. And he hangs up the phone. I go back in the meeting. They were like, what did he want? I said, he wanted to know about Sabr Adori and the attempt to kill President Bush. I'm like, okay. 8 hours later, we fired 47 cruise missiles into Iraqi intelligence service headquarters. But by then it was the middle of the night in Baghdad, and we killed the janitor. So the next day, I said to my boss, I killed that janitor. And he said, I knew you were going to say that. You didn't kill the janitor. You had no idea what Powell was going to do with the information. I said, I know, but I still feel guilty about it. Other than that, thank God, I never had to do it. I'm not sure how I would sleep at night.
Do the US still assassinate people by the CIA?
Absolutely, yes. When Barack Obama was president, John Brennan, in the first term, was the Deputy National Security Advisor for Counterterrorism, and he started something called the Tuesday Morning Kill List meeting. So it would be Brennan, it would be the National Security Council attorney, somebody from the CIA General Counsel's office, and a representative of the director of the Counterterrorism Center. And every Tuesday morning, they would meet at the White House, come up with a list of people to kill that week. The teams would fan out around the world, kill their targets, and then go back and meet next Tuesday morning.